on mobile, and soon on DAB. This is Star Radio UK, the leading Afro-Caribbean radio station in London.
Broadcasting worldwide, online 24/7.
This is Star Radio UK.
Hi everyone, it's your girl Bebe Clement, the author of How to Go from Employee to Entrepreneur and the host of your weekly business show, Bebe Means Business, the show where we discuss everything you ever wanted to know about business but you were afraid to ask. How do I start my business? How do I raise the finance? How do I grow my business? Where am I going to find my customers? Join me every Tuesday at 1:30 p.m. on Star Radio UK to get all the information and tips that you need to become a successful entrepreneur and become financially free. Remember, don't let life dictate to you. Rather, put your signature on life.
Get ready for this.
Hi everyone, good afternoon. It's your girl Bebe Clement and you are very, very welcome to the Bebe Means Business Show. This is a show where you get all your advice and your tips and your knowledge and your expertise with anything and everything to do with business and entrepreneurship. This show is for you. It's designed to help you create, protect, grow generational wealth, so that you don't have to keep struggling financially and you can really concentrate on whatever it is that God wants you to do in this life, and do other things and go to your grave knowing that you have left enough for your children, not just your children but your children's children. That's really the aim of this show, to help you become financially free and to do well in business and entrepreneurship. So I do my best to provide all the knowledge and expertise and have really dope guests on the show that can share their experience with you and you could know how to do it and avoid all the pitfalls. So first of all, I'd like to say thank you to everyone who tuned in last week. Last week, as you know, we were celebrating young entrepreneurs. And I had on the show Ife and Emeka Chukwu, who are the proud owners of Chukwu's Tapas Bar, the first Nigerian tapas bar, I think, in the world. And they came on and they shared their experience and some of their challenges and stuff like that. But I think it's really important that we celebrate young entrepreneurs. I'm really big on getting our young ones involved in business so that they can become masters of their own destiny at a very young age. So it's important that we encourage them and that we celebrate those that have made the jump and are making a success of it. So it was great to have them on the show, and I thank them and I wish them all the best in their future endeavors in relation to Chukwu. I'm hoping that they're going to expand, which they did share, but they're planning to do so. So hopefully they'll come to South London where we'll be able to enjoy what they have to offer. So for those of you who are joining me for the very first time, my name is Bebe Clement, and I'm the host of this show, and I run a group of small companies. I'm also the author of 2 books, How to Go from Employee to Entrepreneur, as well as my latest book, Wealth Creation God's Way. Now, if you haven't got this book, and I can't understand why you wouldn't have this book, you can purchase it on my website. That's www.bbclement.com. That's www.bbclement.com/shop, and you'll find it there. Okay, now, something that I guess a lot of you don't know is one of the things that I do is I'm a guest lecturer at Bebe's Business School. Now, Bebe's Business School is the business arm of City University of London, and I lecture there on professional business skills. So I'm not just speaking from the heart, which there's nothing wrong with speaking from the heart, but I can also speak from an academic point of view and a practical point of view, because as I said, I teach professional business school skills, and the whole point of that is to prepare our young people for the workplace. So I teach there as well. Now, we try to teach them the practicalities of the marketplace, not just the theory. So my colleagues teach them the theory. I teach them what really happens out there on the ground. So that's part of what I do. Now, one of the things that we do as lecturers is we sometimes have meetings with industry leaders just to ensure that what we are teaching our young is still in line with what is going on in the marketplace. Now, as you know, things are moving and changing so quickly, it is unreal. It's indescribable. You literally have to be chasing your tail to even stand still now. Things are moving so quickly in the marketplace. I'm sure you've heard of all the proposed changes in 2023. Those of you who haven't heard of Chat GPT, go check it out. Open AI, all those kind of platforms now. The marketplace, particularly in 2023, is going to change, I reckon, almost beyond recognition. So we try and prepare them. Now, in one such meeting recently, they said something to us that piqued my interest. Because what happens is once they feedback that actually this is what's happening in the marketplace, we then go and look at our course and see if the courses that we're teaching are still fit for purpose. For instance, there was a particular thing to do with business writing that we were teaching our undergraduates, and it was to prepare them, obviously, for to be able to write, good, well-standard reports in the marketplace. And our business industry leaders said to us, actually, we don't need them to do that anymore. AI is going to do that. So I thought, wow. So we had to then adjust that part of the syllabus, which was actually quite a chunk. So we had to take that out and water it down to just the bare minimum rather than the flesh that it had before, because apparently they will no longer be required to do that. AI will do that itself. So, but in one such meeting, there was something that they said. They confirmed to us that, in all honesty, the academic grade of a student, i.e. whether they got a first class or a third class, is no longer that important to them. No longer that important to them. In fact, many of them said that we don't care. I was just amazed. They said we don't care anymore. Now, I found that very interesting because, particularly for my people, when I say my people, I'm talking about the black community, because in the black community, we emphasize almost to the exclusion of other things, the grade that you get, or you must get a first class, or you must get a first class. And I'm not saying that that's not important. I'm not saying that grades are not important. But let me explain how recruitment now happens in larger companies and corporations. Perhaps not for small companies like the ones that I run. I'm still very involved in the recruitment process. I don't think I'd take anybody on that I've not been involved in the recruitment process. But in larger corporations and organizations and companies where a lot of our children aspire to go to, the recruitment process is somewhat different. So I think it's important to get it across so that you know exactly how it operates. So the initial recruitment process is handled normally by AI, some form of AI. For those of you who don't know what AI is, it's artificial intelligence. Now, what it will do is it will sift through the applications, picking up certain catchphrases and words. So usually it will sift through anyone that has like a first or a 2-1. So to that degree, excuse the pun, but to that degree, it is still important that you get a good grade. But once that is out the way, it will then pick up certain phrases. And this is where I must emphasize, it is really important that people match their skills and their experience to the job description and the person's spec. Because that is what it will be looking for. That is what it will be looking for. By the way, I didn't say earlier on, but the title of today's program is How to Get That Dream Job. How to Get That Dream Job. Okay, so that's what it will be doing. It will be looking up certain phrases that match the person's spec or the JD, the job description. That's what you'll be looking for. Now, this is why it is important that when you apply for a job, you don't just write your experience, the wealth of your experience. That's not necessarily what it's looking for. You need to match your experience and your knowledge and your expertise to what the job requires. You must be able to demonstrate the core requirements of that job description. That's what you should be doing, not just, I worked in Sainsbury's 6 months, I worked here for 7 months. No. What does the job that you're applying for require? What skills does it require? Which of those skills can you demonstrate? You can show. You have examples that you can show that you have the ability to fulfill that role. That's what you should be looking at. So at this stage, you have a fighting chance. Once you've got past that stage, you have a fighting chance. But thereafter, what exactly do they want? So we discovered that now what they're looking for is what we collectively call soft skills. Soft skills or transferable skills. Now, transferable skills are skills that you can use in any industry, across any industry, but they are vital to those industries. So we then asked why the shift? Why the shift from the academic to soft skills? And they said, well, as far as they're concerned, over 70% of the graduates that they see are not work ready. They are not work ready. Now, what do they mean by that? Now, as an employer, I'm well versed to actually add my voice to this. Having employed some young people and being shocked, to be honest, there's no other word I can use, shocked by some of their behavior and their attitude towards work, I've got to say that I agree with these industry leaders. So they were saying, and I agree, that we seem to have raised a generation of pampered, entitled young adults who are often unprepared for the harsh realities of the workplace. And my own personal experience is that young graduates often don't seem to understand that they are there to serve their employer and not the other way around. Not the other way around. So, for instance, they expect their employer to understand that they were 20 minutes late because they woke up late and they missed the bus. So I remember one of my employees who eventually we had to sack because I just got tired. One of my employees who looked good on paper, and now I see where they're coming from. He looked good on paper. He had the right academic credentials. I think he got a 2-1 in law or something. But he used to play football. And whenever he used to play football, he would get an injury. And once he has an injury, it's almost guaranteed he's not coming into work the next day because he's nursing his injury. And he just didn't seem to understand why that used to upset us. So he would say, oh, but I got the injury playing football. As if to say, I'm interested in the fact that you're playing football. I'm paying you a salary to work. I'm not interested in whether you're playing football. So for you to think that I should understand and why you should be off work because you played football is just a stretch. It's too much of a stretch. So what are employers looking for? They're looking for what I've said is soft skills or transferable skills. Now, this is important because what was previously merely ancillary to a person's work qualities has now become the main focus. The main focus. Because I can assure you that there is no point in having a first class in, for instance, in law, but you can't get along with other people in the team. What is the point? What is the point? If you are a disruptive team member, the fact that you have a first class in law is irrelevant to me. Or you don't know how to speak to customers in a polite and coherent manner, or you can't relay information in a way that other people will understand, then of what use is your first class? So these are some of the skills that they're looking at. So I'm going to highlight some of them in a moment. But these are the skills that I would encourage you to now start demonstrating on your CV, emphasizing on your CV. So I'm going to take a break in a minute. So give you an opportunity. If you've got any young adults in the house, or you have any young adults that they might be at lunch in their workplace, quickly text them and let them know that this show is on, and let them tune in, because it will really help them. It will really help them. Because sometimes, we don't get jobs, and we often think it's down to racism. We think, well, I'm qualified and I'm not getting the jobs, so it must be racism. And sometimes it's not. I'm not saying racism doesn't exist. I'm just saying that sometimes that is not the case at all. So I'll talk a little bit more about this when I get back, but we're going to take a break in a minute. See you soon.
Hi everyone, it's your girl Bebe Clement, the author of How to Go from Employee to Entrepreneur, and the host of your weekly business show, Bebe Means Business, the show where we discuss everything you ever wanted to know about business but you were afraid to ask. How do I start my business? How do I raise the finance? How do I grow my business? Where am I going to find my customers? Join me every Tuesday at 1:30 p.m. on Star Radio UK to get all the information and tips that you need to become a successful entrepreneur and become financially free. Remember, don't let life dictate to you. Rather, put your signature on life.
Get ready for this.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. It's your host, Bebe Clement, and you are tuned into the Bebe Means Business show. And today, I'm talking about how to get that dream job, that job you've always really wanted, when you're wondering, why are they not calling me for an interview? I've got first class, I've got a 2-1. Why aren't they calling me for an interview? So I'm just be sharing some of the reasons why. Now, during the break, there was a flyer up on the screen. I'm going to be speaking at St. Olave's Church on Sunday. I'm going to be talking about surviving beyond your salary. So if you are in North London, thank you very much. My producer, Archie, thank you so much. If you are anywhere near St. Olave's Church in Woodbury Down in North London, which is almost next door to Manor Park Station, pop in at 10 o'clock on Sunday. I'm going to be speaking there and be giving tips and advice as to how to survive in these very, very difficult times, increasingly difficult times. Okay, so today, as I said, we're talking about how to get that dream job, and just want to welcome you back. So I was talking about some of the frustration that we have in our job searches, because we think we're qualified, and indeed we are academically, but like I said, that it's not just academics. Indeed, it's hardly academics that employers or industry leaders are looking at the moment. So I'm going to talk you through some of the things that they're looking at. Now, I made a statement just before we went on a break. I said that some of the industry leaders are saying that our young adults are not work ready. Now, these are some of the things that they are referring to when they say that they are not work ready. 1, 71% of industry leaders said that young adults that they take on, or young graduates, have a poor attitude to work. A poor attitude to work. And I got to agree, a poor attitude to work. And with the example that I just gave just before the break, 68% of them said communication is a problem. They don't know how to talk to people. They think everybody is their friend, and they have a license to talk to people anyhow, like they're talking to their friends. They don't know how to talk to people. They don't know how to address people in written communication. 44% of them said they don't know how to work to deadlines. They don't know how to work to deadlines. 38% said they don't know how to solve problems. They don't know how to solve problems. 36% said they are not resourceful. They're not resourceful. They don't know where to go for information. They're not resourceful. 35% said they need to improve their ability to work in a team. 29% said they need to learn how to follow instructions. So not being resourceful is one thing. Not even being able to follow the instructions you've been given is another thing. And 22% said they lack creativity. And like I said, again, I've got to say I agree with this. I know it sounds quite dismal, but having had the experience of being an employer, I've got to agree with this. So let's start with some of the things that they raised. We're not going to be able to finish all of them, but let's start some of the things that they raised, so that if you are a young adult, or if you are the parent of a young adult, you can begin to address these things. Because, to be honest, a lot of these things will show up at home. They will show up at home before they hit the marketplace. They will show up at home, and I'm going to share an example of one of my children. I know he's not going to be very happy, but I'm going to share an example of one of my children, so that you will see what I mean when I say that these things show up at home, and we need to address them in the home before they hit the job market. Okay, we must prepare our young ones for life. So let's start with teamwork. Now, nearly all of your working life will be spent working in a team of some sort. And you don't usually get to pick and choose who you want to work with. That's the truth. So it's important that you know how to get along with other people from all walks of life. That means you need to be able to get along with people who are not of your race. Let's start with that. Some people can only, especially people in our community, a lot of us can only relate to other black people. You've got to get past that. You've got to get past that. In this day and age, are you kidding me? You've got to get past that. Others can only relate to people of a similar religion. So they don't want to, if you're a Christian, they don't want to mix with Muslims. They don't want to mix with those of other faiths. They don't want to mix with people who have no faith. You must be able to do that. Now, a word of warning for those of you who are of a religious leaning, particularly of a Christian leaning. Now, there are some cases, and I'm an employment lawyer, so I know that there are some cases where employers just discriminate against you because of on grounds of religious belief. I get that. But I've also come across some cases where people get sacked or disciplined at work really because they've not thought their actions through. They've been unnecessarily aggressive about their faith. And I'm not saying don't share your faith, but there are ways in which you do it. Now, for instance, if you are in an office, in an open office, and you have a screensaver that says something like, all homosexuals are going to hell, or something like that. Come on, are you kidding me? Now, I think now, because of the laws that are tightened up now, you wouldn't be able to do that now. But a few years ago, you were still, I remember I had a case like that. You would still be able to do that. So those kind of things, I know that's an extreme example, but you'd be amazed. People, will bring big Bibles and slap them down on their desk and things like that, and have all kinds of offensive sounding artifacts on their desks or postings and all that kind of thing. You've got to be careful. You've got to be careful. So you must be able to accommodate and be respectful of other people's religion. Also their sex. I remember somebody saying to me he wanted to work in an all-male team because his religion prohibited him mixing with women. And I nearly died laughing. I'm like, well, if that's the case, then you should have asked your dad to start a company that you could go work in his company. Because this is the real world. How can you work in an all-guys team? So these kind of things. Also, obviously, the hot one is sexuality. Some of us cannot work with people of the LGBTQ community. I don't see why not. As long as they're not throwing it down my throat and asking me to become, trying to convert me, then there's no reason why we can't get along for the sake of the work environment. There's no reason. As long as we stick to business, there's no reason why we can't get along. You do what you do, and I'll do me. That's fine. And whatever we need to do as regards the business, we'll do that. So these are the kind of things you must be able to relate and integrate into a team, and not let all these peripheral things that really don't matter interfere with your ability to do that. So still on teamwork, some of us have the barest interaction at work. And again, I think this is not just a matter of teamwork. This also has to do with our attitude towards work. Some of us are sitting at work in a team, and we just keep ourselves to ourselves. And let me tell you, if you do that, you do yourself a disfavor. So I'll give an example. So your teammates go out for a drink on Friday night, and you say you don't want to go. You never go because you're a Christian, so you don't want to drink. And that's fair enough. I'm respectful of that. You don't have to drink, but you never go. So here you are. You're a member of a team, but you absent yourself from the social aspect of the team life. Now, let me tell you why I think that you're doing yourself a disservice. One, that argument doesn't really stand up for me, because you can go to the pub, you don't have to drink, but they drink. I go to the pub with my colleagues, and I order a Coke. Not a big deal. And I sit and I talk with everybody else. It's not a big deal. But also, I can assure you that promotion decisions are not made by the panel. They're not made on the day of the promotion. They're not. They are made in places like that, in the pub. That's where the decisions as to whether they're going to promote you, whether they want you to, whether they're going to give you extra work, whether they're going to give you a salary raise. That's where those decisions are made. I'm telling you from personal experience. So the fact that you are not, that you are absenting yourself from that, puts you at a disadvantage, because at the end of the day, like I said, people buy, and when I say buy, I don't necessarily mean pay for a product, but they buy into people that they like, they know, and they trust. So if they never get to see you outside the office, how are they going to get to know you? How are they going to get to know you? And if they don't get to know you, they're not going to be able to form an opinion as to whether they like you. And the fact that you're all going out together builds up an element of trust. Oh, this is one of us. Do you see what I mean? So that can only help you when it comes to things like promotion or salary increase or things like that, or building and forging a relationship with your superiors. So you put yourself at a disadvantage if you don't do things like that. So a lot of these things that we think are, I didn't get the promotion because they're racist. Yes, like I said, sometimes there is a place of racism, but a lot of cases it's not. It's not. It's these soft skills that people don't really understand how important they are for you to thrive in the workplace. Okay, now when you work in a team, and I'm emphasizing teamwork because that's like I said, most of your working life, you're going to work in a team. When you work in a team, do not be a silent team member or an invisible member. There are certain people in your team that you don't even know they're there. And when they're not there, you don't even notice because they never say anything. They don't contribute. So don't take a back seat and let everybody else do the work. Don't do that. Be an active participant. Speak up when you need to speak up. Contribute when you need to contribute. Make suggestions. Now you might say, oh, but I'm shy. I'm the only black person on the team. Blah, blah, blah. Yes, I can't tell you how many jobs I have been in where I have been the only black person. I cannot tell you that. Even in my current role, I'm the only black woman there. But notwithstanding, and I'm also very shy. This is the only time I really talk when I'm doing things like this. Outside of that, I hardly say a word. But having said that, I have realized as time went on that just doing that, behaving that way, again, puts me at a disadvantage. So you might be saying, oh, but I'm not comfortable talking in a team. I'm not comfortable either. Believe me, I'm not comfortable either. But as my husband says, needs must. Some things have to be done. If you want to progress in your career, you're going to have to get over that. And it's not comfortable. There's no comfort in the growth zone. But then there's no growth in the comfort zone. So you are just going to have to get over that if you want to do well. Either that or don't complain. Sit there, say nothing, do nothing, be nothing, and don't complain. It's that simple. Okay, so let's go on to time management. Time management. Now, this is such a huge skill. And again, like I said, this is something that our young adults or our children will show whether they are handling well in the home. Don't wait until they get to the workplace. You'll be able to tell in the home whether they have good time management skills. So the ability to prioritize. What does that mean? To identify what is imperative, what must be done today or must be done this week, or what is important. Yes, it must be done, but it could actually wait till next week. And what can wait? What is irrelevant or minor, or what can wait? Now, one of the keys that you must make sure that you don't do in relation to time management is don't major on minors. Don't major on minors. So what a lot of people do is they might make a list, they might sit at their desk and make a list of all the things that need to be done. Starting from the most important, they work their way down to the least important. But when they actually start their tasks, they start from the bottom. They start from the least important. And then you hear from such people. This is how I know that people do those kind of things. You hear from such people, oh, but I've been working hard all day. You can see that I've been working hard all day. And they'll be coming and they'll be going and they'll be umming and they'll be ahhing and they'll be doing whatever they need to do. And yes, seemingly they've been working hard all day. But working hard doing what? If you've been working hard doing things that could have waited till next month, or you've been working hard doing things that are actually not very relevant, then what is the point? You need to be, if it's two imperative, important things that you're able to accomplish in a day, it is better than, working hard on 10 things that are irrelevant to the business. Okay? So you need to be able to identify, part of your time management is not just doing things quickly, although that is important, but be able to identify what is the priority. What is the priority? And how much time should I expend to each task that I need to do? And again, like I said, you need to watch your young adult at home and make sure that they're able to do it. So, for instance, I remember during the summer holidays, one of my children was working. I tend to make sure that they work. They cannot sit at home and just be looking. That's not happening. So they have to go and work. So one of them supposedly set his alarm was supposed to be setting his alarm to get himself up to work. So he was doing that. But there were a couple of days that he was slipping because he had chores in the morning before he goes to work. He has his house chores. So I noticed that there was a period where he would dash out of the house before I got up, and then I'd go and inspect his house chores, and he hasn't done his house chores. So I'd call him and say, you didn't do your house chores this morning. And he'd say, oh, Mum, I'll do it when I get back. Now that is a red flag for me. That tells me he's not prioritizing and he's not managing his time properly. So there was this particular day, he totally messed the whole thing up. He overslept, and then he didn't do his house chores. And then he said, Mum, I'm really sorry, I've messed everything up. Can you drop me at work because I'm going to be late and I'm going to get told off? So I said, you're joking. I'm not taking you to work. Forget that. But his dad, he went and twisted his dad's arm, and his dad said, let me take him. I don't want them to tell him off. And I said, no. I really put my foot down. I don't usually oppose my husband, but I did put my foot down on this one and said, no. If we do that, if we take him to work, we're sending him the wrong message. Let him go to work. Let him go and stand at the bus stop, wait for the bus for 20 minutes in the cold. And then when he gets to work, let them tell him off. Because if they tell him off, he will remember that tomorrow he has to get it together. And that's exactly what happened. He went to work, his boss gave him a good bollocking. But the next day he set his alarm. And before I got up, he finished his house chores and he was out of the house and he got to work on time. So we have a role to play as parents in preparing our children for the real world, because they're messing up in the marketplace. And we have a sense of responsibility in relation to that. So I would encourage you that in relation to time management, that you make a list, like I said, of all the things that you need to do that particular day. I usually make 3 columns: imperative, important, and can wait. And I start from imperative and work my way through. So if I only get to important and I am only able to finish 3 things on important and I never even got to can wait, that's fine. That's fine. Okay? All right. Now, the ability to work to deadlines and take initiative. This is really important. Some people get flustered. Once their boss says, I want it on my desk by 5 p.m. Oh, they get so flustered. You shouldn't do. You shouldn't do. I don't see why you should. If your boss gives you a deadline, it means that he's assessed what he's asked you to do, and he thinks that the time allocation that he's given to you is enough to complete that task. Now, if for any reason that time allocation is insufficient or he's wrong in his assessment, then you need to let him know as soon as possible, well ahead of time. So you don't wait until the 5 o'clock that he's expecting it on his desk. So maybe he's supposed to take a report that he's asked you to do. He's supposed to take it to another meeting. And then 2 minutes to 5, you tell him that you haven't finished the report. Rather than do that, once by about 3 o'clock, you can see that actually there's no way I'm going to finish this. You need to let him know, I'm sorry, this report is not going to be finished by 5 o'clock, and these are the reasons why. Or if you have a solution as to what needs to be done in addition to enable you to finish it by 5 o'clock, so you can say, so maybe there's competing priorities, maybe you're doing something for a client who also has a deadline. You can say to him, listen, I can finish it by 5 o'clock, but I'm not going to be able to finish this other thing I was doing for client A. Could you ask one of my colleagues to do that so I can concentrate on your report? Or if somebody else assists me with some part of the report, I can get it done. Or is it a case of you are waiting for further information? So yes, I've done my part, but in order to finish this report, I'm waiting for some information from, I don't know, HMRC, and they haven't gotten back to me. You need to let them know as soon as possible that it can't be finished and why it can't be finished and what you have done on your part to ensure that it is finished on time. But what a lot of us do is we don't say anything and we just sit there, and then 5 o'clock we just don't submit the report, and then we wonder why our boss is angry. So these kind of things are really, really important. Let them know. Good customer service. Being able to assess and understand each client relationship and having an understanding that you are an ambassador for your company at all times is very, very important. Very, very important. So that includes something about even something as seemingly basic as the way in which you answer the phone. So the way in which you answer the phone, do you sound bored, disinterested, or deflated? A good tip if you're answering the phone is to smile on the phone. So you might be thinking, why am I smiling on the phone? The person can't see you. You're right, the person can't see you, but it has an amazing effect on even the way you sit. When you smile, it changes the way you sit, and the way you sound is totally different when you smile on the phone. I learned that many years ago when I was doing, I was working as a market surveyor. I learned that trick. But it was a very good one, and very true. So learn to smile on the phone. Now, this also extends to email etiquette. So some people, verbally, they're okay, they know how to communicate with customers, but when it comes to written communication, they're terrible. So if, for instance, a client sends you an email, let's say I send you an email, and I end that email with kind regards, Mrs. Clement. The fact that I had written Mrs. Clement rather than Bebe tells you that, as far as I'm concerned, the relationship at this point in time is a formal one, or the relationship I want to have with you and your company at this point is a formal one. That's why I wrote Mrs. Clement. So when you are writing back to me, you don't start your email with hello, or somebody actually said something to me and said, hey, are you kidding me? I'm a client and you're addressing me as hey? So these are the kind of things that you must learn to do. You must learn to do, to recognize and pick up on how you address customers. So I would encourage you that all emails should start with dear whoever. If you know their name, either dear Mrs. Clement or dear Bebe, or if you don't know their name, dear sir, dear madam. Those kind of things. You need to be able to know how to relate and communicate with people in the marketplace. Okay, we're going to take another quick break, and just to let you know that this is a live show, as I'm sure most of you know, and you can contact me. You can, if I'm saying anything that's helping you, or if you have any questions or any experiences that you want to share, our Twitter handle is @StarRadioUK, or you can text or WhatsApp us on 07539 661 744. That's 07539 661 744. Or you can email us at info@StarRadioUK. Or those of you who are on Facebook, just put your questions or whatever it is that you want to share in the chat. And when we come back after the break, I'll have a look and I will share it with all the listeners. See you soon.
Hi everyone, it's your girl Bebe Clement, the author of How to Go from Employee to Entrepreneur, and the host of your weekly business show, Bebe Means Business, the show where we discuss everything you ever wanted to know about business but you were afraid to ask. How do I start my business? How do I raise the finance? How do I grow my business? Where am I going to find my customers? Join me every Tuesday at 1:30 p.m. on Star Radio UK to get all the information and tips that you need to become a successful entrepreneur and become financially free. Remember, don't let life dictate to you. Rather, put your signature on life.
Get ready for this.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, and as you are aware by now that today we're talking about how to get that dream job. How to get that dream job. What is it that industry leaders are looking at when they look at your CV? What are they looking at? Well, we've established that it's not your grade. That is not what's turning them on these days. What they're looking at is you being able to demonstrate that you have very good soft skills. Soft skills. And we've been looking at a couple of them. We looked at being able to manage your time properly, being able to work in a team, being a valued and active member of a team. I'm going to talk a little bit about resourcefulness, because this is another thing that they flagged up, resourcefulness. The ability to take initiative, to know where to find information, to know where to source information. Really, really important. Now, if all you can do as an employee, if all you can do is carry out instructions, then you're not really useful as an employee. That's the truth. But if I give you a task and you say to me, yeah, Bebe, I understand that this is what you want done, but if we do it this way, I think it will be better, or it will be done quicker, or the client, I know this client very well, and I know the kind of things that she likes. If we add this or this or the other to it, should be really pleased. That is the kind of employee I'm looking for. I'm looking for the employee who will look through our practices and processes and say, do you know what, we could improve on this. This looks good on the website, but if we did this, that, or the other, it would look even better. It would make the website more user-friendly. That is the kind of employee I'm looking for. That's what you need to be demonstrating. So that way you become more viable to the company. Now, let me say this, and I know a lot of you don't know this, but it is the truth. There are a number of people who are at work in a team with other people, and a lot of the other members of that team have the same job description, and they have the same person spec on the job when they applied for it, but they're on a completely different salary from you. You just don't know it. They're on a completely different salary, because employers are not stupid. The more valuable you are to the company, the more they want to retain you and reward you. So don't be surprised if you are on the job and you are the least paid in that team. Discover that you are the least paid in that team, and that is because the employer has identified that the other team members, or the other team member, has certain skills that they have demonstrated in the workplace, that they're more valuable than you are. So this is again why I said you do yourself a disservice when you just sit there and do the barest minimum, and you have an attitude and you don't show any initiative. You do yourself a disservice. You may not know, but it's very common. It's not unusual at all to have a group of people who have the same job description and on completely different salaries. Okay, so resourcefulness is really important. Being able to work under pressure. Again, I'm not talking about working in a toxic environment where you are constantly belittled or shouted at or bullied or undermined. That's not what I'm talking about. That's not what I'm talking about. But you must understand that there are pressure moments in the workplace. That's the truth. There are pressure moments in the workplace, and you must be able to accept that and rise to the occasion if that occurs. So some people fall apart the minute they're given extra work to do, or there is an extra urgency regarding a particular piece of work or a deadline. They fall apart, and then they cry that they're being bullied. That's not always the case. You need to be prepared. So for instance, if you, a lot of my friends who are accountants, they tell me that January, of course, is their busy period, is their really busy period, and they don't take no phone calls from me during that period at all, because that's when they're doing, I think that's the deadline for tax, for HMRC tax filing. End of the month, if you're doing payroll, end of the month is a busy period. You don't have time to mess about. But you should expect that. You should expect that. That should not make you fall apart. That should not be keeping you up at night. It should not be causing you anxiety and you have to go on anxiety medication just because of that. You've got to roll with the punches. You've got to roll with the punches. Develop some fortitude, because the marketplace does require that you have some fortitude. Develop some fortitude and learn to roll with the punches. So if you're prepared for that from the get-go, you will have less anxiety over it, and it is expected of you. It's expected of you. Again, those of us who are parents, we have a role in preparing our young ones from the home. So there are certain things that we have to be able to lay on them, if you know what I mean. There's certain things we have to be able to demand of them, and help them fulfill those demands in the home, so that when that is replicated in the marketplace, they don't fall apart. Okay. Now, good public speaking skills. Well, you've heard me say it once, you've heard me say it a million times. The ability to speak well in public in this era, in the 21st century marketplace, is singularly the most important soft skill. It really is. More and more you are being asked to present. I can't think of any job right now where there's not some kind of presentation required. And in my university where I lecture, Bayes Business School, we spend a lot of time teaching our students about how to present, a lot of time, because the market is going to demand it of them. And it always, it always gets me so excited, and I feel such a sense of accomplishment when you have a student who, for whatever reason, initially can barely say their name in class. They're so shy, or maybe for cultural reasons, they're just not used to doing that. And then you continue coaching them and teaching them and giving them opportunities to speak, and then by the end of the semester they're able to confidently walk into a room and speak. It's amazing. The transformation is amazing. There's a particular young lady that comes to mind when I think about that, and by the end of the semester, and we asked her to do a presentation, it was almost like looking at a completely different person. It was like a completely different person. So this is really important. Now, why is the ability to speak well in public so important? One, people who have this skill are considered more intelligent. You don't have to be more intelligent, but you are considered or perceived to be more intelligent, and that's a good thing. That's a good thing. 2, statistics show, and this is true, and I'll share a story in a minute, which I've shared before, but I'm going to share it again, that those who are able to speak well in public get promoted faster in the workplace. Because, again, going back to number 1, they're perceived to be more intelligent. So you think of anybody that you know that speaks well in public, you always think that they're intelligent. And people tend to gravitate towards people who speak well. Have you noticed that in the workplace? And such people tend to end up in leadership positions. So those skills are twin skills, the ability to speak well in public and leadership. A large core of leadership is the ability to speak well in public. Even from a religious perspective, think of all the pastors that outside of the fact that they speak well in public, probably wouldn't, their churches wouldn't grow. But in the marketplace, this is really, really important. Now, I'm going to share this example that many years ago, I was working in a government department, a government agency, and the head of that agency used to come round our desk every few days and just, chat with us just to build a relationship with his team and with his employees. And he could never remember my name. Whenever he stopped by my desk, he could never remember my name. He would always have to ask me, "What's your name?" And that went on for a couple of years. And then I was kind of getting bored in that job, and I told my boss that I was going to leave, and I don't think she wanted me to leave. So she found something that was a bit challenging for me to do. So she asked me to work on a project where I was doing this research. So I did that for a few months. And then when I finished the research, I said, "I've done it now." She said, "Okay, we're going to have a meeting with heads of departments, not just my department, but other government agencies. Can you present your findings to this group of people?" So I said, "Okay, fine, no problem." So I went along, and yes, there were all these, bigwigs there. So I started my presentation. About 5 minutes into my presentation, my immediate boss, and this overall guy that could never remember my name were sitting next to each other. They were sitting to my right, and they were whispering, but I could hear what they were saying. And about 5 minutes into my presentation, the overall boss asked my immediate boss, "Who is that lady?" And he looked at him and said, "What do you mean? That's Bebe. And he says, "Oh, what department is she?" "She's in my department. You see her practically every day." So he said, "Really?" He said, "Yes." He said, "Okay, what is her role?" So he told him my role. So, "Why isn't she in management? Let's make it happen." I was like, wow, this is amazing. This guy sees me every week, doesn't think much of me, clearly. I've been to the promotion board a couple of times. They turned me down. And yet he heard me do a presentation. 5 minutes into the presentation, he feels our management material. I thought, this is amazing. This is so true and so real. So that's just an example of how important that skill is. One of the reasons why I think it's important is also it just makes people know that you have a brain in your head, because oftentimes they don't think we do. And I know you know who I'm talking about, but sometimes they don't think we do. But when you are able to communicate clearly, confidently, and convincingly in front of any group of people, then that dispels that myth or disabuses them of the opinion that maybe you don't have that much to offer the company. Okay, then you get the respect of colleagues and clients if you're able to communicate properly. They do respect you more. I remember a few years ago I was an employment lawyer for a trade union, and I was new to the job, so I wasn't really saying that much. But then I decided that I needed to speak up, so I determined ahead of time that every senior management meeting I was going to say something. Even if it was just to ask a question or give an opinion about something that had been said, I was going to say something. And so I started doing that. And immediately I started doing that, my colleagues' attitude towards me totally changed. So people would start to call me, some of my colleagues would start to call me and ask my advice about a particular area of law, or ask me to write something, or ask my opinion about something that they were doing in the workplace. What did I think about it? Which wasn't happening before. So again, you get the respect of your clients and your colleagues. Another reason why this skill is so important is because it increases your own self-confidence. When you see the effect that being able to communicate has, and how it raises you the eyes of those that you're doing it with your colleagues, your clients, and all that kind of thing, it improves your own self-confidence. And that's really important, because then you can begin to do things that you would never normally have done once you are aware that you have that skill. Okay, so that's as far as I'm going to go with that. I'm going to go to the book corner. For those of you who don't know what the book corner is, every week I try to review a book. As I said, I try to help you increase your financial literacy, your financial knowledge. So this year I'm reviewing my book, Wealth Creation God's Way. Wealth Creation God's Way. And so I started last week. Was it last week or the week before? Oh, no, I wasn't able to do it last week because the interview was just so interesting. We never got to the book corner. But I'm going to very, very quickly, before we finish, go over a couple of things there. Now, in the book, I talk about the principles of enlightened wealth. The principles of enlightened wealth. And remember that I'm talking about wealth from a faith perspective. Talk about wealth from a faith perspective. So one of the principles of enlightened wealth is understanding that we are blessed to be a blessing. We are blessed to be a blessing. Listen, if God blesses you financially, it is not just for you to go get a bigger house, a newer car, and all that. And all those things are nice. There's nothing wrong with that. God wants us to have good things. But that cannot be the end all or the be all or the motive for your wanting to become wealthy. You should want to be wealthy so that you can be a blessing. So that you can be a blessing to other people. Money is called a currency. And it's called a currency for a reason. It ebbs and flows. It's supposed to ebb and flow. It's not supposed to stagnate. So it's got to be, your mentality has got to go beyond me, myself, and I, my children, and my husband. Your mentality has got to go beyond that. Excuse me. Your mentality has got to go beyond that. You've got to want to be a blessing to other people. So that's part of it. Another aspect of enlightened wealth is developing a personal culture of constantly giving to others. Constantly giving to others. Be actively seeking people that you can bless. This is something that I do. When I wake up in the morning, Lord, bring somebody in my life today that I can be a blessing to. That's what you need to do. Constantly be proactive in seeking people that you can be financially a blessing to. It might be somebody in church. Just put, I don't know, £20, £50 in an envelope. Make somebody's day. And you don't even have to put your name on it. You don't have to put your name on it. You don't always have to have the glory. Just put it in an envelope. Somebody that you know might be going through a hard time, or you just want to bless somebody. Just give it to them. Actively seek how you can be a blessing. The Bible says that Jesus went around doing good. Doing good. He did that more than preaching, you must be born again. In fact, I can only find the whole, you must be born again once. But mostly he went around doing good. So that's the same thing that you should be doing as regards wealth. We use our wealth to honor and glorify God in every way we can. Listen, there is a kingdom to be built. And you are an ambassador of that kingdom. And part of your role is to dedicate your finances to the enlargement or the expansion of that kingdom. So, and I'm not talking tithe or offering. For me, tithe and offering is the bare minimum. That's got to be the bare minimum. But there are other things that the kingdom needs. And if you and I don't stand up and be counted by way of finances, how is the kingdom going to be established? How are we going to send missionaries if there's no money to keep them? How are we going to have that youth program if there's no money to promote it or to do it or to host it? How are we going to help single parents raise their children if there's no money to have, programs where we can educate young single parents as to how they can raise young men, single mothers who are raising men and have no clue as to what to do and are at their wits' end? How are all these things going to be done if you and I don't have the mentality that we are called to build the kingdom? Part of enlightened wealth is funding projects that support the Christian faith and expand the kingdom, like I just said, and keeping our hearts clean before God where finance is concerned. Don't get greedy. Don't get greedy. Develop a spirit of contentment. Yes, there's nothing wrong in wanting more. There's nothing wrong in that. But don't be greedy. Some of us spend all our time. In fact, one of the ways in which you know whether you are greedy or not is to look at what you pray about. Look at what you pray about. If you have your prayer list or your shopping list, is what I call it, and you have 10 items on the shopping list, and 6, 7 of those items are about give me, then clearly there is something wrong with your attitude towards finance. And in fact, we are actually warned against that in the Bible. We are told that these are the things that those that don't know God pray about all the time. They're always worried about, what are we going to eat? What are we going to wear? Where am I going to live? That is what those that don't know God pray about. So if you know God, clearly there should be other things that you should be praying about besides that. So don't get greedy. Don't compromise yourself because of finance. Some people have messed up their ministry, messed up their whole call just because of money, because they can't be trusted with money. Don't let that be your story. Commit to being transparent. Commit to showing integrity in financial matters. If somebody asks you to keep some money for them, keep the money. Don't use the money for your own purposes. If you and somebody go into business, don't defraud them. It's such a shame. Don't defraud them. Be known as somebody that can be trusted when it comes to finances, because it's so important that you are. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for tuning in. I hope you gained some information that will help you and your young ones, particularly in the job market, to help you get that job that you want, that dream job. And if you do get that job, please let me know about it. That will encourage me as well to keep going. And I hope that you have a great week. So thanks again for tuning in. I'll be here again next week, Tuesday, waiting for you, and with some new nuggets as to how to grow your wealth. Have a great week. Bye-bye.
Hi everyone, it's your girl Bebe Clement, the author of How to Go from Employee to Entrepreneur, and the host of your weekly business show, Bebe Means Business, the show where we discuss everything you ever wanted to know about business but you were afraid to ask. How do I start my business? How do I raise the finance? How do I grow my business? Where am I going to find my customers? Join me every Tuesday at 1:30 p.m. on Star Radio UK to get all the information and tips that you need to become a successful entrepreneur and become financially free. Remember, don't let life dictate to you. Rather, put your signature on life.